Holy fuck, man. I swear to fucking God. Okay. Let's get this thing taken off now. Alright, going live on TikTok now. I need the other camera, not this camera. How do I switch that? How do I flip camera? Okay, there we go. Okay. Alright. Let's get this lined up. Alright, so I think I'm live on TikTok now, and I'm live on YouTube. I'm gonna get my... Okay, got the mic set up. Get my cart, my tools. There we go. Okay, get some gloves on. So the first thing we need to do, kind of explain what I'm doing here, and what I'll be doing on this DTF printer in particular. Right now I've got, for any TikTokers that are watching, I can't really see the questions that you're asking, but I'll periodically go over and look and answer any if you do have any. But essentially, the customer needs the bearing change. So that's the piece that's on this rail here, and it's in behind the carriage, and it's the part that allows the printer head carriage to go back and forth. So I've got a number one, so this here is from Amazon until we get the proper part, but the customer needs to print now, so we're really trying to get this to see if we can get it going for him. So we're going to try this first and see if this fits and if we can get it going. So the first thing to getting behind the carriage to get to the bearings, of course, is getting all the dampers out of place and everything, and getting to the screws behind it to get, of course, the bearings out. So the first thing we do is, so we have these online. They're called drip stoppers, and they're really, right now I'm going to use the concept ones that we have, but I've made drip stoppers, and it makes maintenance, especially when changing printer heads and stuff, like super easy. So let me show you an original drip stopper. So these are the drip stoppers that we sell online, of course, and you put these on your damper, as you'll see, and it makes maintenance a lot easier when you're changing things or having to do things. You can move around the dampers freely without any drips or anything, hence drip stopper. So that'll stop that drip. So I just want to get some paper towel just in case anything does drip before I get the drip stopper on there. So I'll always put down some tissue paper, and that way anything that drips won't go on my printer, it'll all go on here. So I'll start off with the original, or the actual drip stopper, and then I'll use my concept ones before I had these made. So again, you just take out your damper and then just slide on the drip stopper, and it stays on there, and you can move around your damper freely at this point. So I'm just going to stop. I'm going to drip stop all of these dampers, and then I'm going to move the reservoir up and then take out this printer head. So I've got to take out the printer heads so I can work with the carriage without damaging, of course, the printer head. So we've got to drip stop all of these dampers first. And then we can move the reservoir up and get to our back dampers, our color dampers there. Okay, so now we have all these drip stopped. So now I just have to move it up. So I'll move this now. And I move the capping station down so it's not, because it's resting on the printer head, of course. But we're going to be moving the stuff around, so we don't want anything touching the printer head now. But it is wet capped in moisturizer. And I'm going to do that. I've got 2 temporary boxes that I've made up, so I could put the printer head in, and then the cables can come out each side while I'm working on it. These are like sort of temporary boxes here that they go into. This is our head 1, or head 2, sorry. Head 2 white. It doesn't really matter, I know which one's which, but I labeled them. We'll keep it in order. Head 2 white. So, do that. Get that ready. Okay, so now that I've moved that down, when the power's off, the carriage moves freely. Now, I did a temp fix the other day where it's moving freely now. Before it was seized, but I've already taken the bearings off, and I tried to do a temp fix to get them printing until the other piece comes in. And of course, it wasn't to my satisfaction. It was printing, but there was still a risk there. So, of course, we got another one, a new one to put in. Hopefully it fits, and we'll go from there. So first thing I'm going to do is take off the top carriage here to expose my top motherboard here. You always want to be careful when you're working with this stuff. You have a sensor strip here. So this is kind of tells it where the printer 0 is, and it tells it its distance. This is the strip here that reads that on your software and stuff. I'm just being very careful, no rush. Now, one thing I noticed I just didn't do, which is no big deal because it's not touching it, but I always do it just in case, is when I'm working, is I'll move the film back so that when you move the printer head over here, it doesn't rub up on it by accident, just in case. It stays down for the most part, but again, the fan's not on, the vacuum's not on, sucking it down. So if it does come up while I'm working, that's called a head strike. So it could strike the head, and we don't want that. So I like to just keep it nice and clear here. And now I can pull this over to work on it freely. So now I'll pull it over. I've got the screws loose to this. I can pull this straight off. Nice and slow. You want to watch the cables as you're pulling off any top one, this one, any one. Sometimes there's hoses, cables. You just want to make sure that you pull it off nice, evenly, and straight, and make sure nothing sticks to it so that you're not damaging or anything, or pulling or ripping out any cables. So I'll put this aside for now. Okay, so we'll start with head 2. I'm going to remove that. Start by moving the cables. Move it over just a hair to here. Get out the box for it. You may have some dripping, like it may seep through a little bit. That's because I had it in moisturizer and stuff, so the head may just leak out a little bit of white here and there, which is fine, and it's normal. So I've got to get to these back ones here and move this reservoir to get this head out. So I've got a little bracket here that holds the manifold before then it runs into the damper, but this is the white ink manifold, and I've got to find an Allen key that fits these ones. Get these off. that's one. Just throw that aside in there for a sec. This is two. There's only two screws holding that on. And so I just pull it again. And again, when you're working in here, just be very careful. Carefully moving things. You don't want to make sure that when you, once you take these cables out, kind of watch where they go, because if I allow this one to go this way, I've got the capping station there, and there's some ink. It's wet capped right now, so there's moisturizer sitting in it, and of course you don't want to get any of your cables wet and cause liquid damage. So now I've got these moved. I'm just going to sneak these cables in behind these for now, so I can get printer head 1 out as well. Again, I'm watching where this falls to, so I'm just setting it aside, making sure that it'll stay up here until I get to it. Now I've got my drip stoppers on, so I can move this around freely now, right? So what I'm going to do is just put some paper towel, so they're not dripping, but of course I like to just protect everything. You want to keep everything always protected. So I'm going to throw a piece of paper towel up here, and then I'll take these, and again with the drip stoppers, stops the drips, and it makes it easy to work with things. So now I can set my white dampers out of the way while I get to this. So before I take this out, I like to clean the insides of each channel where the dampers sit in. And that way when I put it back and stuff, I got no dry, the ink's not drying while I'm sitting here working on the carriage itself. So I'll grab some moisturizer. I will grab a cup with some foam tips. Oh, sorry, it's a raw live, guys. I got to run around and get things still and stuff. It's not all set up and ready to go and ready to rock, so we're not there yet. But I'd like to start the lives, break the ice with it, and start teaching, or at least, you know, giving you guys some advice on DTF printing. And if you have questions, just ask. And you know, again, with TikTok, I can't see it as much if there is questions being asked. But with YouTube, I can kind of see it a little bit better. Oh, CN. Hey, buddy. Not the foam tip I like to work with. So we have the fatter foam tips. That's for cleaning like the surface areas. I like to use the fatter one, and I like to use the thinner ones like this, the ones like this, to get into the heads. So distilled water, only use distilled water on your heads anywhere where you're working around it. Distilled water and moisturizer. So if you don't have the moisturizer, use distilled water. So right now I'm just getting the dry ink out of here. See how loose that is? It's because yesterday or the other day we took out one side of the bearing, so it kind of wants to fall forward because it was the bottom bearings we took out to try to temporarily fix it. Like, it works. I got it stiff in there tight where I could get a print, but it's not safe enough to take and start going to town printing. Plus the fact that I had to remove the sliders just to make that clearance to get the print. So yeah, I can align it that way, sure. But, you know, to risk a head strike is just not worth it. You know, the heads are one of the more, of course, costly components to your printer. So you definitely, it's one thing you want to maintain well and take very good care of. Baby it if you have to. They're expensive and you don't want to have to replace them. I'm going on 2 years now. With my XP 600 heads. I have the same printer at home, and you know, my daughter's printing there and stuff daily, and it's and I've had no clogging issues and everything. Now I'm high maintenance, and if you guys watch any of my maintenance videos, if you're on YouTube, of course I have the tutorials in my video section. So you guys can go and check it out there. I'm pretty sure I'm sure I do maintenance on 2 head, on 4 head. I don't show the maintenance on 1 head. We don't really sell 1 heads. I only sell from 2 head up. And this unit in particular is our more commercial unit, whereas we have, of course, the home, our Super Mini, which is the home one, that you can just plug in straight at home on a 110 volt. This here is a 220, and if you're plugging it in at home, you got to get like a converter for it, or like a transformer that converts it over to 220. Okay, and then once you get all the dry ink from in there, because it does accumulate over time, but every time that you remove the dampers or do any maintenance, you want to make sure that you're cleaning everywhere, and getting it all clean. So once I have those cleaned out, I like to put a little moisturizer on the tips, so that while it's sitting, again, I don't have ink drying or anything to impede my flow of ink. When I put these back on, and once I prime my dampers and put my dampers back on, I want them to go back on nice and smooth and without dry ink around it, of course. And you definitely don't want dry ink going through the tips of these little pieces, because that's what causes the clogs as well, right? Okay, so now I've got that moisturized. It's ready to be put in a temporary place right now until I get this changed over, and until it's ready to be installed back onto the carriage. Again, when you're working with printer heads or anything, you're always just being careful and being aware, of the surroundings of it, right? Because these cables are flying. Again, you don't want them falling in liquid. Like I have liquid here, right? So I'm being mindful to where these are as well, right? As I'm doing this. So just be mindful of your surrounded area as well. Because if this just falls by accident in there, then it's like, God damn it, now I gotta switch a cable or dry that one out, and things will just, it'll extend the time to fix this. So you just want to be careful in everything you're doing. So now it's 4 screws that hold on your head, of course. I keep turning these until I hear like a little click, like till it's like skipping off of it, and that way I know when I pull up, it's just going to come up, fairly nicely. Now, because this is, again, it's a used printer, this has been used a lot, there might be a little bit, there might be a little bit of a stick, and that's normal. It's a little bit of ink on the outside from the flashing and stuff. So what I'll do before I pull that out is I'll just ensure that I have this ready to go right into. Excuse me. Hold this back. Now I'll pull the head out, nice and slow, carefully, nice and straight. And there's a little bit of a drip there, as expected. And now I've custom made these to just sort of slide the cables down each side, so I can just close this, change the part, and then put this back into place afterwards. So we'll just set this one aside and move on to printer head 1. Okay, so we got a little drip there, no big deal. It's not going to hurt anything or hurt anyone. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I need 6 drip stoppers. Okay. So you can, if you have clips, like with the drip stoppers and stuff, as long as you're careful, like as long as you pull it out carefully and don't touch the sides, you're not going to get a drip. But if you fear you might, just close your clips if you have them. But again, if you don't, it's not necessary. So I do put them on sometimes, but in this case, I'm not going to put them down, because I know I pull out my dampers very carefully and straight, and I don't drip. And then as I'm moving around for maintenance, of course, I'm not dripping either. Just for cross-reference, sometimes you take a picture, of your order. In these ones here, a customer has written 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. the order of the actual dampers, but sometimes if you're doing maintenance and you move all these, you could forget the order that they were actually in. So it's always good. Or write the numbers on the front of the dampers so that once you're done your maintenance and stuff and you move these back, if for some reason there was a crossover, you know that to correct that. So I'm going to move all these clips up quickly first. Just get them all up in the air. Again, you have the option of closing or not closing. If you're really careful, you're fine. Or just close them, right? And just bang, done. Put your drip stopper on, and then we can remove that head nice and carefully. Pulling it out, setting it aside. Now it's fairly clean inside this head. It's kind of clean inside the channels where the dampers sit. But again, you know, there's only one piece of dry ink. And again, I worked on this the other day, so that's why it's pretty clean. This piece just probably snuck away from me. But again, you can see like kind of the dry ink that kind of accumulates in there, right? Accumulates. So just rinse it off. Get in each channel. There's nothing, no dry ink in any of these other channels. It's good to go. Maybe there's the odd little one that I'll get. There we go. Around. Okay. Oh, I got a little bit of dry ink in there. Just going to pick that out. Perfect. Okay, so that's done. And again, I moisturize the tips of the channels where the dampers go in. And that way, when I'm done my maintenance, as I'm doing my maintenance, it's not drying up ink and stuff. It's nice and moisturized on the tips. And now I can remove my head. So just move the dampers there temporarily. And move them back. All right. Again, there's 4 screws. I'm just keep turning until it starts to skip, and that way I know that it's off track. And when I go to remove it, it'll just come up nicely. I just keep going, and you kind of feel a little tick, 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 and that way you know you're off. Yeah, just kind of skips. All skipped up. Skippy. Let's get my head 1 color box. It's been custom made. Customized to hold heads while I'm doing maintenance. Kind of set that there for a sec. Pull these up. Sneak my printer again. Again, being mindful where the end of this is going. Holding it down and in place so it doesn't fall. Grab each side of the head nice and carefully and just pull straight up and then pull out again. You don't want to touch the bottom of the head. And I put that straight into the box for maintenance. Push each side down. Put that in. And again, that just about went into the liquid, and I would have had a problem there if it did. Aside from the fact that I always check when I'm putting things back in place that there's no liquid, number 1, and number 2, there's no damage to the cable as well, putting it back into the motherboard, causing issue and wondering why there's an error when you bent a piece of the cable, and that's all it is. It's just a little bent piece of cable. Okay, so now I have, this is up here out of the way, my dampers are out of the way. I've got to get to the carriage. So these 4 screws here are what hold your whole carriage on, number 1. And that is what's behind it, that's the rail there that your bearings run across, of course, to move the entire carriage to do your printing. So I'm going to remove the one that's in here now that we sort of Mickey Moused a couple of days ago. We're going to put this one in. Hopefully it works until the original comes in. Again, this is from Amazon, but we always, if we can get something, if the customer needs it right away, we try to make it work. That'll be at least, you know, like a week or 2, and the customer does not want to wait that long to start printing for his customers. Where is, let's see which one fits in here. I think it's this one. Okay, so that's the one. I know this bumper has to come out. That was impeding me last time. So let's just take this out now. Just the bumper kind of gets in the way, so just remove that until I'm done working here. So there's that, and then I like to just loosen the cable a bit, or your belt. I just loosen it because once I pull the bearings, it kind of falls a little bit. So you got to be careful of the sensor strip that you're not bending or scratching it. At the same time as just being mindful of your belt as well. Okay, so I got that moved. That's moved there. Okay. And I'll loosen these. There's 4 screws that hold on your carriage, or this carriage in particular. It depends on, this is just the 2 heads, so when I'm doing 4 heads or bigger industrial printers, of course it's different. And when I'm working with the smaller printers, well, I think 4 is the minimum, even on our super mini. So 4 is like the minimum. Could be up to 8 with some of the bigger printers that hold on the carriage, because of course the carriage is bigger in size, right? So I'm going to remove these 4 that are holding it. I gotta thank you guys on TikTok, you know, generically, without doing lives or anything, or even doing tutorials. I do a lot of tutorials on my YouTube, right? Because I find when you do it on TikTok, they kind of get lost in all the videos. You know, it's more of an on-the-fly thing with TikTok. And with YouTube, it's a little more organized. I can do playlists for each printer if I want, and then have tutorials for each one, like 2-head printers, 4-head printers. And the different products we have, I can kind of categorize it better. Not as I'd like to on YouTube. There is a different way I'd love to be able to do it, but it at least categorizes it better than TikTok's. So now we have 4 screws removed. We've got to the back of this now. I can move this out of the way because now that piece is exposed and loose. So now I've got my belt loose. I'm being mindful as I slide this over, of course, of the sensor strip, and mindful of everything else. I got these up here, got to watch where those are going and everything. So just, I lift up a little bit on the carriage, again watching the sensor strip. I loosen the belt so I can just push it over a bit while I'm working. So I can move it now, slide it over. Now I can put that back down there. I got a little spill here, no big deal. Gonna wipe that up. What I like to do is dab. Don't do this right away. You can just dab on it. Aside from the fact that on the plate, little holes, and these are your vacuum holes, and every DTF, every printer has them, and you don't want ink getting in there and filling up and clogging your vacuum holes, because then, of course, your film won't stay down, and that could cause a head strike. Okay, so now that's done. That's there. That's moved. Here's the piece. So we slide it out like so. So that is the old one. And sort of remember even how you're taking it out, watching everything, seeing how it is. So now I know how I took this out. I'm going to place it down. And here's the replacement one. I'm going to try to match it up, see, before I put it on. So this here, you have, these come with it, these little extended little bumper pieces come out. So one, there's not one on this side, however, there is one on this side. So you want to keep the configuration the same. Let me move that. You can see. I got to keep the, so this is the original that came off, and this is the Amazon one that I'm trying. So the sizing looks right. It looks okay. This looks like it comes out a little bit more than this one. But again, that might just need some manual adjustments once I do that. So now I've got to find an Allen key to get this out, and then I'm going to put this one in. So let me just get my handy dandy Allen keys. They dropped. Where did I put them when they dropped? Oh, here. Okay, so this is a really tiny one. So let's find the small one. Okay, there we go. So that's that one. And now this isn't an Allen key. You need like a pair of needle nose just to get that on. So let me find my needle nose. Let me find my needle nose. I have to improvise with something else, which is fine. I'll just use these. Not sure where I put the needle nose, or where they're hiding on me right now. I'm sure they'll show up. Okay, so in any event, let's get this small one out, and let's make the configuration of this one the same. So we're going to pull out this Allen key from this one, and we are going to change that. So pull this out, this one in, and now I don't have my needle nose, but I can get away with using these just because it's so small. Nice and tight. Taunt. Don't like reef on it. Doesn't need it, but as long as it's not going to move. So there we go. So that is sort of the same as that one. We got the same configuration now. And it also comes with these if they're needed. I don't think that I'm not sure we'll necessarily need this, but we'll find out. So let's, again, so it came off this way. We want to put it on the track the same way. And before I put it on, I like to grease it, get it all nice and greasy and smooth. Keep all the bearings nice and greased. You want to try to get it up close there. So there it is there. Get the grease all inside where the bearings are, all inside there. Want to get your bearings all nice and greased up. Both sides, of course. And as you're working with this, just remember again the way it came out. I like to just leave it the way it came out like that so I remember. the other piece so I know it goes in that way. So let's do this side. Get it all inside there where the bearings are. Make sure the bearings are nice and greased. You don't have to go overboard, but I just like to make sure that the whole each side is coated. And then when I put it on and start sliding it, it's nice and greased all inside. And now all these bearings that are in here, they're on like a little rubber ring, right? And it kind of goes around and rotates like this. So there's bearings that I'm missing right now that I'm not able to get to by doing this, but by moving it back and forth on the guide rail, of course, that'll get all the bearings greased. So that's why I put quite a bit in there. I don't overdo it, but I do put a nice amount in there to be able to get all the bearings afterwards. So now we're greased up. I'm going to put it in the exact same way. I've got the little nub piece on. So now I will grease even that track a little more now. It's nice and greased from yesterday, but it's nice to grease it more. So get all inside where this is going to be sliding, both sides, underneath as well. This is what the carriage slides on. So just making it nice and greasy. And now you can see if this piece works. I'll get this on. Hopefully it slides on or it goes on nice. And then we can put our printer heads on, prime it, and then we can get to our testing and see how we did. So that's that. There we go. Get this in, and just being very careful again. Let's see what we got going on here. Now I can see, you can take the track that it was on to see kind of if this one will even go on to this one, right? To see if it'll actually work. But in this case, I may have to get a longer track because it is not the same as this. Now the other thing I can do is, if the bearings are the same at least, then I can switch the bearings from this one into this one and then just use this, because it was one side of the bearings that were no good on this. So I can just change that and see how that works, because this one from Amazon will not fit onto this one. That's definitely what I'm getting here. I'll try it one more time, but it's just not sliding on like it should. Let's see. For some reason, I don't want to. It's really stiff. It's really stiff. Let's see. Let's give it a push just to see. Maybe it's just a little stiff there. It did kind of go in, but if it doesn't glide like smoothly, then it's definitely, you're going to have to change a variable, either the whole guide rail and use this, or change the bearings from this into that one and then do that. And that is kind of what it's looking like here, because when I go to put this one on, I'm definitely not fighting that much, or am I? No, this one just, again, so the original just slides in. There is a little bit of a fight there, but I think that's just because the bearings are gone on it. But this one, sadly, like, it's got a little guard there. I thought that's what might have been stopping it just to getting it on there. And sometimes it is a little bit tough at first, but then once it gets on, it's nice and smooth, right? But this one here is just, it's a battle. So I'm not going to give up on it. I'm still going to try to change the bearings and switch them. and see if that works. Just because the piece doesn't work doesn't necessarily mean we need to stop and give up on it. I really want to get this going for the customer, and if I can, and he doesn't have to be down right now. I mean, we're going to print for him and stuff his jobs, but of course everyone likes to print their own jobs, right? So now that's going to require a little bit more work. Maybe I'll move the cameras down to here to get a closer look as to what and how I do that. So let's move these pieces here. I got a chair. I got this. Let's move you guys down here. And the camera on this, I gotta get this plugged in, because the camera on, so before I even actually get to this, I gotta plug you guys in with one. TikTok's fine, it's the YouTube that's gonna, it's dying on me here. So let me get this down, get it closer to the workspace here, and to these here. That's one. Let's move TikTok over. All right. Move you down to here. Can you zoom in on TikTok? Oh yeah. Okay, so you can play with the zoom on TikTok. There's different features for like different lives, man. TikTok's got some cool ones, but there is stuff about TikTok I'm not fond of. And stuff about YouTube I'm not either, so it's kind of, you just got to kind of make the best of what they give you. Until enough people say, hey, this should be changed. All the feedback comes in and they're like, hey, you know, the team gets together and says, we got this much feedback, guys. We need to change this. We need to change that. Okay, so right now I am trying to get just an extension cord or something to plug the DJI, the YouTube in, because it's dying, and I gotta find an extension cord. Let's see if we have any other ones around that I can use, just because it's gonna take me a few minutes on that, and it will surely die. What can I do? Oh, I know what I can do. All right, let's get you over to here. Slide you to here. Get you plugged in here. Then maybe I can get this plugged in and I don't have to worry so much about that dying now. DJI dying. So let's get, I gotta move it back a bit. The cord reaches. Let's get you plugged in. All right. Okay. That's good. Okay, so I've got to change the bearings from this piece into this one and see if they're the same size, but yeah, it's the one side in this one. Well, it might be all of them. I might not be able to do this, but I have to try. I have to at least say that I tried to do it. So that's what I'm doing now. Otherwise, we're just waiting for the original piece to come in. Because this right now is not working. I will try my hardest and damnedest to get it to go. But at this point, it's not looking good, but you know, I never give up.